Hello guys, and in today's video, I'll be showing you guys how to apply decals to LEGO minifigures. The reason why I wanted to make this is because I know there are so many people out here that are struggling to make decals or are just wanting to try and they don't know how to. To do this, you'll need an X-Acto knife, scissors, a cotton stick, a sponge, tweezers, a decal, and your minifig. But for today's purposes, we're doing a Jonak Toys decal. You're also going to need some warm water to go with this to get the decals off the applied paper. Okay, so to start, we have to cut out the decals from the decal sheet. Right here is a Jonak Toys decal. I order from them pretty often, but not as often as the other decal company I order from, which is King Customs. I prefer them because they send extras just in case you mess up. Anyway, this decal is actually a Wolfpack Trooper, and to start off, we're going to have to cut out everything. I usually cut most of the stuff out with scissors, and what we're just going to try to do is cut as close as possible to the decals. The reason we do this is so that when we apply the decals, they don't stick off of the parts that we apply them to. Usually I use an X-Acto knife for those smaller to cut pieces, which really helps out because you cannot cut those really well with scissors. So now basically all we have left are the head decals and the arm decals. These are the hardest parts to cut out because you have to cut really close to it. But with the scissors, you can definitely do the arm and the head decals. What you want to do for the head decal is you want to get it as close to those side markings as possible. As you can see, I did it right here, so then we're just going to cut the rest of it and do the same thing on the other side to get it to that nice look that we're going to want it to be at the end. What we're going to try to do is to not cut off any of the decal, because if we cut off any of the decal would look a little weird. Right here, we are going to try to cut as close as we can to the little gadget thingy on the end of the arm that might be for like holograms and all that. But yeah, we're just gonna cut right close to there. Yeah, alright. And then once you cut there, you just cut out the rest of the arm as close as possible to the decal as you feel comfortable with. The closer you are, the better it looks. Okay, now we finished cutting out everything except for the head parts, those two head parts. So we're going to use our X-Acto knife to cut as close as possible to both of these decals. Because the scissors, if you want to use the scissors to do it, you're going to need to make sure that they're really small and that they can get in there comfortably. Now, for the breather, on this one, you can actually cut as close as you want to the decal. But it's not the case like that for all of them because some decals have a little bit of color around that area, like this one. So you're going to want to cut right around to where the colored part is, and then you'll apply it like that. You don't want to cut it out, or else then the decal is going to end up looking very weird at the end. Now, this top head part is going to vary between every single decal you do. For most Wolfpack, they do have this, so, just letting you know. But what you want to do is you want to cut as close as you can to it so that, you don't screw it up. Now that we spent 4 minutes cutting out every single part, now we can move on to actually decaling. So usually what I do is I start with the helmet because that is the hardest part, and I want to spend as much time as I possibly can working on the helmet without anything drying. Now that we know what we're going to start with, we want to get all the helmet decals on first. Usually I like to start with the main part of the helmet, which is the visor part. So what we're going to do is we're going to let it soak for 20 to 30 seconds, and with these tweezers, we're going to take it out with our finger. And then we're going to move it onto the tweezers, and then we're going to apply it onto the helmet. Sounds easy enough, but this does take some time to get used to because the decal is going to be quite slippery to deal with. So here, I'll show you guys right now. you're just going to slide it off, and then you're going to put it onto the tweezers, and then apply it to the helmet. It's not going to go on immediately. It's not going to look great immediately, but, whatever. Like I said before, we're always going to have to still fix it. Like, you're going to have to fiddle around with it for, like, a solid minute probably until you get it to that spot that looks really good. You're going to want to line it out with that little line that's going across the whole helmet that you can see. And then once it's lined up, then you can dry it off. To dry it off, you're going to want to use one of these sponges that I mentioned earlier in the video. You can buy them from Jonak Toys on their shop. And you're just going to, like, dap it down so that it stays in place. And then once we're done with that, we use the cotton, stick thing. And we're just going to slightly move around it in, like, any motion you really want. What you're just trying to do is get the air bubbles out of the decal so that the decal looks as best as it possibly can be. Next part of the decal is the little helmet emblem that goes on top of the head. We're just gonna move it into the water, and then we're gonna wait another 20 to 30 seconds, and then we gotta put it onto the head and align it as best as possible we can with the fin. So now that we finished the emblem on the top of the head, we can move on to the last part of the helmet decal, which is actually the hardest part because it is the little mouth breather, and it is very annoying to deal with. So I'll show you guys how I usually like to do it, because this part is the part that I originally struggled with when I first started decaling. Now that we finished letting it soak in the water, we're going to slide it onto our tweezers again. And then we gotta be really careful not to drop this, because once you drop it, it's gonna be so hard to find. Okay, so now that we have it in the tweezers grasp, we're going to put it on the bottom of the helmet as best as we can. Usually what I like to do is I like to put one part of it on, and then I put my finger in the way so that it's slightly on it. Then we're gonna use the butt end of the tweezers to just slide it on or into the middle of where it's supposed to go. And then from here, we'll just take our sponge and we'll just dab it down. Sometimes it doesn't like to stick, but most of the times it does. So now that we know that it's sticked on, that's good. And we don't really need to go over with the cotton stick, because then it might just end up wiping it off the helmet by itself. So usually I like to avoid doing that. Otherwise, the helmet is pretty much complete, and you can still fiddle around with it if something doesn't look right. Next, in my opinion, the easiest part of the decal has to be the torso. The reason I say this is because it's only 2 parts, and the 2 parts are actually just really big. They're bigger than the whole helmet combined. So usually what I like to do when I am about to spray it is I put this brick on top so that nothing gets ruined. Now, after letting the decal soak in the water for 20 to 30 seconds, we just apply it onto the body. So once we do this, we're just gotta move it on until it's about at that area that we want it. We want it to be parallel with the base of the body. And if you don't know what parallel means, Google it, because I'm not going to explain. So all you gotta do is just center it as best as you can. And then what you're gonna wanna do is you're going to want to take your sponge, and we're just going to dap it down again. We're just going to do one big dap, and look at that, it actually stayed right on. So we're going to do it again just to make sure, and one more time just to make sure, and then we're going to take our cotton stick again, and then we're going to rub it just to get all the air bubbles out, which is going to make the final product look so much cleaner than what it would look like if you didn't do that. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about. I've done this for a few months now. Now for the back of the decal, it is literally the same process as the front of the decal. I am not really gonna I'm not gonna really make you guys look through the whole thing, so I might just end up speeding up the video right about here. Next, the leg decals have to be the second hardest part about the whole fig. First, you gotta line up the bottom with the bottom of the leg, which is really hard because there's always going to end up being a bubble. I'll show you guys how to deal with that in 1 second. But what you got to do is just line it out as best as you can and as parallel as you can with the bottom of the shoe. And then you're just going to want to like take your sponge and dap it down. And it's probably not going to be centered, just as you can see right here, but that's fine because it's still relatively wet, so you can still move it around, which is what we were able to do here. So now that we did that, now that it's in place, we're just going to take the sponge and we're going to dap into that corner right there. The reason why we're doing this is because that corner always usually tends to like to spring up. So what you're going to want to do is you're just going to want to dap it down, and then you're going to want to take your tweezers and you're going to take the corners of them, and then you're going to just line it up with the bottom and just move across the bottom while pressing down a bit. Because this will make it so that the bottom has that nice line that I'm not sure if the camera can pick up. The rest of the leg is really straightforward, believe it or not. All you got to do is just dap down, and then what you're going to want to do is take your cotton ball pin thing, and then you're just going to want to like move up the leg decal. We're doing this to get any wrinkles that may have occurred during this process out of it, and also get any air bubbles that could have been in it out while we're doing it. Now for the other leg, it's also the exact same process, so I'm not going to make you guys sit through it. Just copy what I did last time. Now the arm decals are actually easier than most people expect it to be. Most people get really scared because they see a curve, but there's no problem with that. You're going to want to take the one with the like blaster thing on it, and you're going to want to line it up as close as you can to the edge, so that once we do that, we can align the other one up by just kind of like mirroring what happened. We have it applied. We can just press it down with our sponge. And we're just doing this to make it as flush as we can with the surface. Most people like to use solutions to help with this, but I haven't had to use any yet. But if you guys do want a tutorial on that, I can help you guys out with that later. But yeah, we're just doing that, and then we're going to take the other one and we're just going to mirror it, like I said last time, onto the other arm. Now, we can also use our cotton stick and just, go against it to get any air bubbles out, which usually for this, there aren't really any air bubbles, believe it or not. Anyway, now that we have our full fig laying on here, we can take this clear brick I was talking about earlier and place it over top the stump of the neck. We're doing this so that no the sealant gets on it. And for the sealant, I usually wear a glove, and I use this 2x clear matte Rust-Oleum thing. I'm sorry that the footage isn't nearly as good as I hoped, because it just was not working out for me outside with the stand I was using. Usually what you want to do is just a few coats to get it good on there. I usually do around 5 coats because that's just how I am, and that's what I think is the best for the figs that I make. Once the figure starts to dry, I usually like to start carving the legs. I use this electric Dremel that I bought off Amazon for like $12. And then you're just going to want to get the torso, or not the torso, but the hip piece from the figure, and you're going to want to line up the Dremel with the inside of it. It might take you a few tries, but trust me, it comes out. And you just want to make it so that there's enough room between the leg and like the top of the hips, so that when you move the legs of the decal, it doesn't get stripped or destroyed. Usually, I just like to use the Dremel because it saves my fingers from feeling a ton of pain and such. Anyway, now that our figure is done drying, we just have to put together the figure. This is pretty self-explanatory, but I'll help you guys with the arms. Now that our fig looks like this, what we want to do is take our sponge, and we want to take the figure's arm, and we're just going to put it onto the figure, because if you were to do this on a harder surface, the arms would get destroyed, and you don't want that happening to the figure you just spent an hour working on. So usually I just do that, and we gotta wait for that nice click noise, and we did it. So anyway, here's the final product. It looks really good, and it looks really good next to other decaled figures, which I'm really happy about. if you guys found this tutorial helpful, just let me know. If you guys want any more help, just let me know. I'll have my Discord link in the description and my shop link on Etsy in the description if you want to buy any custom clones, such as any of these 3 or even the Munilist that I'm about to put in. But yeah, I'll leave all the links to the stuff that I bought below so that you guys can get easy access to it. And I hope you guys have a good day. Bye.